Hi, my name is Anna Hunter and I'm one of the Associate Directors of the Student Union. I'm excited to talk to you today about how we can transition our events from in-person events to virtual events. All right, so the very first thing that you need to do is take a step back and look at your in-person event from a big picture perspective. We need to do this in order to really consider why we do the event that we do. So first, ask yourselves, what are our event goals and what made the in-person event so special? Also, then consider what parts could we remove from the event and still have it be a successful event. After you complete these questions, then move on to reviewing your goals and adjusting them to virtual event goals. And be really realistic. This is where many people are like virtual evented out at this point. And so be realistic with yourselves, really try to focus on why you're doing the event that you're doing when you're resetting those goals. Also ask yourselves, how will we know if the event was successful? These conversations will be really helpful for you to have within your organization to help you all get on the same page so you are ready to build the event from the ground up in a virtual format. Next, I'd like you to think about what type of event it is that you're doing. So are you wanting participants to watch something, as in a presentation, a performance, or a lecture? Or are you wanting them to follow along or do something? This is more like taking action, so that could be through demonstrations, through teaching somebody, or prompting action in any other way. Or are you hoping for participants to join in on an interactive activity or interactive dialogue? This is really important because it will help you determine the platform that you need for your virtual event. We have two virtual event formats that are most common that we can use. One is to do a live virtual event, and that could be through social media live streaming or having a live meeting through Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, etc. Or you can do a self-service event, and that could be a pre-recorded video that you post, or it could be more of a do-it-yourself passive program. And so in either case, we can accommodate the type of interaction that you're looking for from the participants. So people who are more wanting to join an event through interactive dialogue or activities, they would probably benefit from a live type of event. And people who are more watching or doing something or taking action from an event, they could really benefit from a self-service type of event. The difference between these two is that the live events happen at a given date and time, and so therefore you need people to dedicate themselves to that event, whereas a self-service event can be more passive and it can be offered for people to join in on or participate in on their own. So at any given moment, they can hop on and join your event. So there are pros and cons to each virtual event format, so let's walk through each one. For social media live streams, they're fairly easy to use and they really could increase your followers on your social media accounts. So those are some really great things. However, if you're using social media live stream, you have to be mindful of maybe the negative sides to it. So one is that the event is viewable to non-TWU community members. You might really like this. However, if you're hoping for your event to be really focused on our community, then this might not be the right platform for you. Also, students may have to have a social media account to access your live event. I have done surveying and not all students have social media accounts, even through the COVID pandemic. So you really want to consider what type of access you're giving people. Also, you have to be ready for unexpected technical issues or maybe the presenters not being prepared as you had hoped. So any type of live event can bring with it unexpected things. So you have to be really ready for responding to those unexpected items. And also, the live events through social media are not always accessible for people who are hard of hearing. So you can't really caption a live event real time unless you hire somebody who does that for you. So it may not be as accessible to all students. With that said, if you'd like to do a social media live stream, here are some tips and pointers that can help you out. First, make sure that the social media profile that you're using is public. So check the privacy settings, make sure that people don't need to have followed you or to have become a friend of yours in order to see the event. Second, be aware of the background of the video where the presenter or performer is. So if there are dogs running around the background or children or something distracting, that can be really challenging. Also, the background of a person's presentation can definitely set the tone for the event. Next, designate someone to monitor and reply to comments. Hopefully there are interactions happening during this live event, so it would be really helpful for the presenter to not have to worry about these comments, so make sure that you designate someone who can respond to those real time. Also, have your members start commenting to create some momentum. This is where you can really use membership buy-in to help others to comment as well and to interact during the event. And lastly, use some props to make it interesting. People are kind of sick of just hearing or watching people talk at a video right now. So if you use some props or if you are able to point to things around the room or around the space, it could really help. Now, if you're going the live meeting route, some of the benefits are that you have several software options. I mentioned some before. You have Google Meet, Zoom, Skype, etc. You have options at your fingertips. Next, you can interact with participants in a direct, live way. So that's really, really helpful if you're trying to have some interactions. Also, you are able to control the settings. So you can control who joins, who doesn't. You can also control some of the audio settings and visual settings as well. On the downside, you do need to communicate to your participants how they can join the meeting. So in this case, you might need to have some additional marketing on the front end, and you'll have to think of some strategy to get people to your meeting or event. And then same with the other live event. You have to be ready for the unexpected, and it may not be as accessible to people who are hard of hearing, as the live captioning features are not always the best. However, I do know that Google Meet has live captioning, so that can be really, really helpful. All right, so some tips and pointers for live meetings. First and foremost, do not share the link to your event on your social media or any other public-facing location. This, I cannot stress enough. There are people that are jumping into random other events, and they may be posting inappropriate comments or posting spam links. And so really make sure that you do not publicize your link directly to a public-facing audience. On the flip side, you can always post your link in Pioneer Engage because the TWU community has to log into Pioneer Engage before accessing your link then, or you can put your link on a Google Doc in your Google Drive, and you can select to limit the audience or the people that can access it to the Texas Women's University community. And then just put a link to that Google Drive location, and then they can click the link to your actual meeting. So that's something really to consider. Next, do a practice event to check the mics and cameras before the event date using that same event link. Also, plan an agenda that deliberately includes times for participants to interact. So when you're doing a live meeting, you will have to prompt interaction more and make space for it, but also tell the participants how to interact, whether it be through comments, through thumbs up, through waving, etc. Also, designate someone to monitor and reply to comments just like the other live event, and shorten the URL so it's easier for people to access your meeting on any device that they have. You can use several URL shorteners. In the resources section later, you'll see the one that I often use. Here is where you can take your live event to new heights. I would really suggest creating an event atmosphere similar to this one for Club TWU. We created a Google site, and then we put several links in that Google site. We made it a club feel so people felt like they were actually joining an event. And then also We had a live Twitter and Facebook and Instagram feed on there with the hashtag. We had the Snapchat filter on there, and then we also had actual live streams embedded into this website. Google Sites has awesome embedding features, so you can embed a Zoom meeting directly into a site. You can also embed videos directly into the site, and so I really suggest figuring out how you can kind of make your Google site or your one event location a one-stop shop for people, so they don't need to jump between links or jump between platforms to engage with your event. This way they can just stay on one page and you can create the look and feel the way that you want it to be. Also, welcome participants as they arrive. If you're able to add into the comments like, hey, we're so glad you're here, I see you, welcome Natalie123, that is a really helpful way to make people stay around. And then also encourage the use of hashtags or encourage people to tag your account in their photos and videos, and that is so awesome to get their photo and their videos up on your feed directly on the site. Let's shift gears and talk about self-service events. So one type of self-service event that we mentioned earlier is pre-recording. I highly suggest pre-recording because it gives you the opportunity to do any retakes and editing if you need to. It also gives you the chance to use graphics and make your video really interesting for people. At this rate, you can also add captions, so you can make it extremely accessible for all people. And then you can control for any technical issues. So if you have a technical issue, just re-record. And you can also increase volume, reduce volumes, etc. when you do a pre-recording. But on the downside, pre-recordings do take some time for the planning, the recording time, and the editing. So it's a little bit more front-end time than it is time during the actual event. Also, you may not have the event feel that you're hoping for if you record the entire event, put it together, and then just post it. You may not feel like people are in one place at one time, and that might be one of your goals for your event, so it may not fit into your goals. If you are going to engage in the pre-recording option, make sure that you try to keep the recording short and sweet if possible. Sometimes you don't need to do that, but in most cases it's helpful for people to remain interested. Next, write a script and then you can upload it to YouTube and easily add the captions later. Scripts are very good for this reason, and it can help you also stay on track. You can also add some low-level background music to keep the momentum of the video or of the event, but just make sure it's not distracting. And then lastly, I just want to note that videos need to be under 10 minutes if you want to post them directly to Instagram. Otherwise, you can post it to YouTube and then you can link to it through your other social media channels. All right, the last type of program is more of a do-it-yourself or passive program where you can really kind of set it and forget it. So it can be planned far in advance, and then you can encourage people to interact beyond the computers. So a great example of this is the TikTok Takeover event. We recorded the TikTok Takeover dance way earlier. We posted the video to release on a certain date. And then when the time came, we really didn't have much to do other than marketing. So it helped people get away from their computers, learn a dance, and then engage on TikTok. Also, you can get extremely creative with DIY and passive events. There's not really a box that you're trying to fit your event into. However, it does require multiple steps for planning and sometimes multiple steps for the participants to even take part in the event. So that is something to consider, is how you can simplify it in the best way possible. I encourage you to consider how you can get really creative with these DIY and passive programs. So you might want to distribute supplies or materials to participants in advance of your event. This could be a great way to help them see value in your event and to actually engage in it when the time comes. Also, you can direct participants to an online resource for more information. This is extremely helpful. And then also make the event as seamless and simple as possible. Don't make participants jump from one thing to another to another. There should not be more than 3 steps for someone to get involved with your event. So think about it from a user perspective. When you are creating the event, do not let the participants do more than 3 steps to join. If you want to take your self-service event to the next level, I really encourage you to create an event experience from start to finish. So in this case, we did a Pinterest party where we were teaching students how to paint Oakley. And so when students checked in for Pioneer Camp, they received a painting kit. It included paints, it included paintbrushes, canvas, and several other materials. And then they were instructed to watch this video to paint Oakley. And so it was a really great way to get them to see value in the event right from the beginning, and then they got to have a finished product. Also, you can add trivia during and after the event about the event. So if you put trivia on your Instagram story about what they were seeing during the event, then they can really respond to that and interact with it, and you can get a good feel for how much they're taking away from the event. Also, have students share photos and videos again on your Instagram, have them tag you, use hashtags, etc. And then another great way for people to see value in your event is to do a drawing of those who comment on the video or comment in the event platform, and then you can do some giveaways and prizes that way. Here are some resources that you can use when creating your virtual events. So there are some video making resources, and you can create some cartoons, you can upload your recorded videos and then add some graphics to them using those free platforms. There are several graphic design online free resources, and Canva is a go-to, but vector.com is also extremely helpful. If you want to shorten your URLs or your links, you can use bit.ly, and that's also a free platform for you. And then your link will be at bit.ly.com/whatever you choose it to be. And then for virtual rooms or virtual spaces, I really want to stress Google Sites again. It has so much flexibility. Google Classroom is also another option if you'd like to have people interact in a more dynamic and complex way. Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, those are all great. Wix.com is another website builder, and you can build one for free there. And then Discord.com is a great way for people to interact back and forth. It's often used for video gamers, but you can use it in so many different ways. It's almost like an online chat room. And I really want to mention too that Google Sites and Google Classroom, they can be limited specifically to the Texas Women's University community. So when you're creating your site, make sure that you set the settings to Texas Women's University, and then people will have to log in using their Google credentials for TWU in order to see your website. And that's another way that you can make it secure for yourself so you don't have to worry about anyone breaching it. Thank you for joining me today on this journey for transitioning your events from in-person to virtual events. Really, it's just going to be in the planning for you all. So take part in the planning process. Hopefully you enjoy it, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is listed right here, and I am happy to have further discussion with you. I also know that the Center for Student Development is a great resource, and so you can have awesome conversations with the team there, and they can help you find the right avenue for your event.